Mr. Chairman, are you on?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right.
I apologize. I got caught in town trying to pick up a truck being repaired, and I am without agenda and everything else. So I'm going to rely on staff to help me out today.
All right. Life happens. Let me pull that up. All right. I think we're going to probably go ahead and call roll because we have some on the call that's not identified correctly. So we want to make sure we've got one. If we could start with Mr. Chester.
I'm here.
Marcus Creasy.
Here.
Dr. Pallone.
Here.
Mr. Davis.
Here.
Oh, Mr. Wren.
Here.
I'm trying to thumb through these right quick. Dr. Throne.
Present.
Okay. Did I leave anyone out?
Dan Wright.
Mr. Wright. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Sounds good, sir. If it pleases the commission or is okay with the commission, if we might move to the immediate business of the committee members and such to get that out of the way first before we talk about the avian influenza update that's kind of at the top of your agenda. If that's okay to move that agenda item, we'll move that down towards the bottom. And I wanted to throw it back into Patrick. He wanted to do some introductions coming in on committee members and such. So, Patrick.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have joined with us Kara Tharp. Kara Tharp is the manager of a former veterinarian board. She's still on staff, will be running that program, and she plays a tremendous key role in this whole process. So she has to drop off because she's got an appointment this afternoon. So I want to yield the floor to her and let her give a little bit of a background of where we're at, where we've been, where we're going, and make sure everybody's clear on the direction for the commission have being absorbed.
Recording in progress.
Okay, go ahead, Kara.
Trying to get my video started there. Thank you, Patrick. So as Patrick said, I'm Kara Tharp. I've been with the Arkansas Department of Agriculture for a little over 9 years now. Formerly, I was the director for the Veterinary Medical Examining Board, also for the Board of Registration for Foresters. So what I do for the department is handle all the licensing for both of those professions. And so, you know, as you all know, with Act 691, we're going to be having these newly formed committees. And so as we progress in that, I'll be the person working with the committee. And I wanted to just share with you some of the primary functions of what the board used to do and kind of moving forward, what will be the responsibility of the committee and the commission. So I was just going to go over those here pretty briefly. Some of the primary functions, the big things that we do, licensing and certification, that happens all year round. So we are constantly receiving licensure applications for veterinarians, veterinary technicians, corporate practices. And so that's something that is constantly going on. Annually, March 31st each year, we do renewals. And so that's another big job that we do is making sure that everyone gets their licenses renewed. We also receive and investigate complaints filed by members of the public. And then we also, as needed, do rulemaking. And so I'll go into just a little bit more detail with each of those things. With licensing and certification, we issue licenses and temporary permits to veterinarians. We issue certificates to veterinary technicians and technologists, corporate practices, and we also have a category of a non-veterinarian embryo transfer technician. Currently, right now, as of today, total license number is 1,742 total licenses. That can break down between veterinarians who are in an active status. That's 1,124. We have 24 temporary permits currently issued. We have 176 active veterinary technicians. We have 197 corporate practice registrations. We have 2 non-veterinarian embryo transfer technicians. And then we also have some statuses for inactive veterinarians, inactive veterinary technicians. People use those as placeholders if they move out of state but don't want to let their license lapse. So we do that as well. Moving on to renewals. So as I mentioned, we do that annually each year. The veterinarians, they are required to certify that they've completed 20 hours of continuing education for the previous year. Veterinary technicians are required to do 12 hours annually. And then the non-veterinarian embryo transfer technicians, they actually renew on a biennial basis, and that is every 2 years from the date that their original license was issued. And they are required to do 8 hours of continuing education biennially. I think that covers kind of all on that I had planned to say. Complaints. We receive complaints from members of the public. We do have a rule established that specifies what our complaint process is. So it is a formal complaint process. So we investigate things that follow that process according to the rule. And this is something that I know the new committee that we're hopefully going to establish today is going to be a top priority, because we do have a lot of complaints right now that need to be reviewed. We have over 30. So that is something that we will definitely be working on, and is definitely a priority. I know at the last meeting, there were some questions about unlicensed practice or practicing without a license. We do have the authority to pursue unlicensed practice, or people that are practicing without a license, whether that be veterinarians who aren't properly licensed, or someone who does not meet the qualification to be a veterinarian. Sometimes we'll get complaints from the public that someone is practicing veterinary medicine when they are not a veterinarian. And so we do have the authority to do that. Very rarely do we receive complaints against those types of individuals. But when we do receive those complaints, we certainly can investigate that. And then finally, rulemaking. So the authority is now with the commission to promulgate rules as needed to set standards for the practice of veterinary medicine. I know that we'll probably be doing that here in the near future with the new veterinary technician specialist bill that was passed during the legislative session. So we're definitely going to have some things coming up on that that we'll need to start working on. But that's certainly something that I always help with, in drafting those rules and working with, the different people that we need to make sure we make some good rules. So anyway, that kind of is just a quick overview just of some of the main things that we do as far as what the previous board used to do. If any of you ever have any questions for me, please do not hesitate to call. I'm just going to throw my phone number out here in case anyone needs it. It is 501-224-2836. And then you can always reach me at my email address, which is kara.tharp@agriculture.arkansas.gov. So I know that was just a really quick overview, but wanted to make sure we did that, especially, as we move into forming this committee. And if you have any questions, I'd certainly be happy to answer those.
Any questions for Kara? I don't think so. You may have covered it that well.
Probably
very
not, but probably not. But if you think of anything later, please let me know.
We do appreciate it. Thank you very much, ma'am. Patrick, anything else we need to cover kind of sort of on the front end?
No, I think that's it. We could go ahead and move into what's on your agenda as item number 3, the appointment of the committee itself.
Okay. And again, I'm going to have to rely on you because showed up in town without my sheet with me. So.
As some of you may or may not know, a part of the law required that veterinarians on the commission itself that were appointed on the commission would automatically roll over to the committee. Those members on your agenda will be Dr. Bill Hewitt, Dr. Mike Pallone, and Dr. Sarah Throne. Those 3 will be immediately part of the committee and representing the commission. The nominations in which the chairman will pick and choose, and then the commission can confirm by vote, will be Dr. Rob Connor, Dr. Sarah Klein, and Dr. Catherine Williams. These 3 are primarily small animal veterinarians, and that was a request in a meeting that we had with the Arkansas Veterinary Medical Association. These names have been presented to them. They are accepting of that and are good with that. As a matter of fact, they had recommended Dr. Williams. So those 3 names will give us 6 members.
Research on the effects of
Dr. Mallett or Senator Mallett has joined us.
I
just joined, but I'm gonna go on mute.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
We can get you caught up here in a second, but right now we're voting on, or the chair is actually assigning 3 members of the vet community or that represent the small animal, and then the board will vote to confirm that. So, Chairman?
Yes, sir. With those 3 names being presented, the 3 from the commission currently that would seat the committee, do I hear any action concerning seating this committee?
Dan Wright, I move that we seat this committee.
Thank you, Dan. Do I hear a second on that?
Mike Pallone, I second.
Thank you, Mike. We have a first and a second to seat those names read off as the committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate that. We'll call that for the committee, Patrick, and make those notifications as necessary.
Thank you, sir. We'll make contact with them and meet as soon as possible. As Ms. Tharp had mentioned, we have a backlog going all the way back to November. So for you commission members, please understand that the next few months will not be a normal. From what I understand, there's just, a few complaints that come in, but because of the backlog, we'll probably be meeting quite often just to get those done and make sure we assess those properly and get a ruling. And once the committee has viewed these complaints, and they will bring their suggestion or their recommendation to the commission, and then the commission will actually vote up or down on their recommendations. Those recommendations to be in care. Please step in if you're still there if I'm wrong, but it will either be 1, dismiss the case, or if there is found a violation, then there will be some suggestions on what the course of action will be, whether it be a requirement for continued education or from as extreme as a fine. So that's where we are with that. I think next on the, unless anybody has any questions. Any questions?
Any questions concerning the committee, the sitting of the committee, anything along those lines? Hearing none, Patrick, go ahead.
Okay, item number 4, Mr. Chairman, is election of officers. that will take over in January. That would be for the chair and vice chair.
So typical practice is we kind of roll through. It will be my turn to roll out of chair. I believe a young man in South Arkansas by the name of Tyler Davis is possibly the one that's looking at coming up into chair. I'll just throw that name out there. But we do need to seat those accordingly, and I would ask for any nominations for the chair and vice chair.
Dan Wright nominates Tyler Davis.
Got a nomination on Tyler for chair. And I think we need to get a vice chair. Who was that follow-up, Patrick? We were typically going by age of commission.
I believe that would be Mr. Wright.
Oh, yes. The one that chimed in, Mr. Dan Wright.
That's why I didn't say that.
Mr. Chairman, if you're wanting nominations for vice chair, I would nominate Dan Wright.
Oh, thank you, Senator Malik. I appreciate that. So we've got a nomination of Tyler Davis for chair and Dan Wright for vice chair. Any other nominations from the floor? Any movement on those nominations? Action to be taken. All in favor of those nominations for those positions, say aye. Any opposed except for Tyler and Dan? Yeah. Okay. So hearing no opposition, those will be taking over as of January for the new year coming in 24. Does that work for you, Patrick?
Yes, sir. I guess we could move along to the last and final item. And the main reason I wanted to put this on the end is in case there's any questions or discussions.
Yeah.
That is pertaining to our avian influenza case, our first case here in Arkansas. I will yield the floor to Dr. Niles, our state veterinarian, to give us a little bit of an update. And then we do have on our call the field representative, Blake Walters, that might give us a little update, as well as Kevin Simmons. So, Dr. Niles. You're on mute, Dr. Niles.
Thank you very much. Is that coming loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
I was giving you a bunch of praises. You missed all of that. Sorry. Good afternoon. But we did get Monday evening, we got Nalden lab confirmation of a H5N1 positive in Madison County. That was the first pitch went to our branch lab in Fayetteville. They're standing up and holding the line right now with all the testing that's done in the control area, and then soon to ramp up to the surveillance area around there. So far, we're holding to one. We are running some sick bird calls. We basically never stopped that since October of 22 last year. But we're running those up just to rule out that there's any more avian influenza in that area. We did stand up our incident management team. It's a unified command with vet services and our staff at Livestock and Poultry. And going through our checklist, we're moving through as rapidly as possible to get this under control, get it stamped out, and get them back to business is our ultimate goal. Continuity of business is a high measure for us. So things are progressing right along with all the phases of that. And so the folks that are boots on the ground, we've got Blake, you want to kind of give a heads up what we've got going on up here in Madison County?
Yes, sir. I can give a quick update. Basically, we have staged some equipment up in Northwest Arkansas and personnel. We have a drop-off area, basically where samples are coming in from the integrators for surveillance testing to help get that collectively done and reported to get to the lab in Fayetteville. And then we have staged other equipment basically for the C&D process as we're getting the farm took care of to make sure there's no viral contamination coming out of the farm or that could affect other farms in the area, and also making sure nothing's coming in also. So we've got inspectors that will be taking care of some of that. And also we've got them doing surveillance in the area. And then like Dr. Niles already mentioned, responding to sick bird calls as they come in. We will have inspectors that will go out and actually swab birds and make sure that those birds are fine and healthy, or not infected with AI anyway, during this process. That's kind of a quick rundown, but if anybody's got any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them right now.
I've got a question as just a private veterinarian. If we get calls on chickens that are sick, do we need to report that now, or are there test kits that we could have in clinic to test those birds? Because I mean, we just see backyard birds, but we see a fair number of respiratory disease, and I don't know if am I supposed to be calling that in or what?
Yes, to both of those, Dr. Palone. You can, we'll get you some broth and some swabs. You're more than welcome to swab those. But any of the sick bird calls right now, they're actually they're going to show respiratory signs or neurological signs.
Okay.
It's kind of strange. I guess it's almost like they're not getting enough oxygen to their brain because it really doesn't attack the neural system. But yeah, we like to have stashes of that BHI broth on there, and Kevin Simmons can hook you up with that. We can talk about those. But yes, if you get any sick backyard, and these two cases that we're working this afternoon are backyard birds, and we have to keep that surveillance coming up. And it is our veterinarians out there that are keep helping us, because all of the county agents know about this. Dr. Clark with the Extension Service is running webinars on the backyard side of that, because we've got the commercial entity ironed out, because we get on several calls and talk to them and interact with them. And then Dr. Clark is working with the county agents. And so if you've got county agents around there, you can work with them, says, hey, if you get any sick bird calls, we will swab those for you. Now, we need to talk about a little bit of biosecurity with people coming in and out of there, but there's some protocols to go by. But we would love to have a stash of BHI broth, and it could be that, you know, our inspectors are out, and I said, we'll run by Palone's and grab you some of those swabs there. So we've got those all over the place, because speed is of the essence. Find it and snuff it out fast.
Mm-hmm.
Along those lines, you know, we've realized we probably opened Pandora's box, but we have invited as much of those cases as possible. We've put out a release to be sure, and our phone number, we have a call line to accept those numbers. So we really don't care at this point if it's an actual case or not, but we invite all calls so we can either vet the situation and react or rule it out at the same point. But we want to encourage as many folks as possible to help and to test everything that we can. We want to find it, make sure we snuff it out.
And if I could add, Dr. Clark with the Extension Service through the University of Arkansas does have webinars on biosecurity and high path AI that are specifically designated for backyard producers. He's advertised that through the University of Arkansas and through the Extension Service. If you have producers or backyard folks that would be interested in learning more, those are open to the public.
Good to hear. And as Patrick said, and Dr. Niles as well, time is of the essence on all of this, because the quicker we can get grasp around where those are around the state, the less repercussions we have in the big picture.
Sure. Another key element in the field is Kevin Simmons. He works as a liaison with the laboratories and the producers and coordinating their surveillance testing and stuff like that. So we don't want any time delay on that. So we'll give Kevin a chance, give a little update how that's going out there. Kevin Simmons.
Thank you, Dr. Niles. main thing I raised my hand for there was just to we were piggyback off of the sick bird call line. I wanted to give that number out. It's a 501-823-1746. Any signs or symptoms that's in your flock or a neighbor's flock or something, please report that to that number, and someone will reach out and make contact to collect information from you. As Dr. Niles stated, we do have a drop-off spot here for surveillance zone testing samples. We're limited to trying to limit traffic going to the laboratory from poultry companies. It seems to be going really well. We have a drop-off schedule that the commercial companies have agreed to and are meeting, and seem to be things, like I said, seem to be going well. We're getting them shuttled over to the laboratory fairly quickly, and the lab seems to be doing a really good job of getting those results samples tested and results out the door so we can get the permitting process completed. That's about all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thanks.
Well, that's pretty much where we are now. Everything's moving well. We've got good interactions with our federal counterparts and working through helping each other out, getting this under control. They have case managers and site managers on the operations, helping us make sure we get everything in line. One of my priorities is make sure we do everything to ensure indemnity and compensation for our producers. No other questions, Mr. Fisk? That's our report.
Okay, the only thing I would add is just to remind everyone, we do have a new Nolan location. That is Northwest Arkansas. That university lab was added from last year. We didn't have that availability. And it has been spoken before that time is very, very crucial. So that lab is going to be able to provide us a quicker turnaround time, be able to run samples up there and get a lot quicker results. So that's going to be a really good added addition to this particular outbreak. The new law, hats off to the commission. The new law that is adding additional prohibitions to or expanding the control zone that surrounds Madison County. There's now a 25-mile radius around that county that takes in the backyard, the free range folks. They're prohibited at this point to do any kind of sales, any kind of trading, no movement whatsoever outside that area or into the area. And then, of course, any kind of signs are there to report those. Backyard as well as the free range are required now to put those birds under cover so they won't have any exposure to wild birds. So we're working right now pretty diligently to find if there's been any additions that would be different from last year, because we have a pretty good idea, or we know exactly of all of our commercial operations, that we don't have a good handle quite yet on some of the backyard and free range folks. So we're trying to spread our wings out and be able to notify those and let them know, because that is a big deal to the free range folks. That is part of their business model is free, happy range birds that are not confined, free of stress. So it is a pretty good imposition on them to confine those birds. So letters have been posted on our website that gives them the information that they're confined those. It also gives them an out with their customers that this is a requirement by state to protect those birds and keep them safe. Hats off, and want to give a lot of kudos to my staff. We've got an excellent staff. We were aware of the case Monday after, I think it's Monday morning. We had a pretty good idea that this was going to be a positive case. We immediately developed a team and got actions immediately. Those birds were depopulated the very next morning. They would have depopped them that evening, but because of extreme cold temperatures for that night, it would have been made it a little bit harder. So they waited until the morning, and we were able to depop them very quickly. But all the plans are falling into place. But just want to let you guys know we have a tremendous staff on this, and we'll get this thing knocked out as soon as we can. So, Mr. Chairman, I think that will be it for us, unless we have any questions.
Any questions on the AI, High Path AI for Patrick or staff? I do want to thank y'all for being on top of that as quickly as you were. That is absolutely the only way to. There is no control, but whatever control you can have is going to be timely from that perspective. Any other questions? Anything else on the agenda there?
Director Fisk, did you say at this time there is a letter on your website for pasture raised chickens to confine?
Yes, sir. Now we're working on the letter for the entire state. The one that's on posted right now will be pertaining to that additional 25-mile zone around the affected area. Of course, the one for the state, for the entire state, is mainly a recommendation that which will affect your part of the state. So we'll get that updated and get that posted as well. I think media is working on that now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I ask a question, Director Fisk?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us I would like the home locations of these veterinarians that we assigned to this committee, since I'm not familiar to some. Can you give us the background where they're located?
Are we talking about on the commission, or the ones that nominated for the small animal?
Nominated for small animal.
Okay, I might have to defer to Dr. Niles. I think he's familiar with a couple of those. I don't think Kira's still online, but if we don't have that information, we can get that to you.
That's fine. Thank you.
Right. They do highly recommended, and or what we would ideally pick for that role. But we'll get you that location.
That's fine. I'd just like to know their hometowns, where they practice.
Absolutely, sure.
That can be handled for sure.
I do know that Dr. Connor is in Mountain Home. Dr. Klein is in Little Rock, and I can't recall off the top of my head where Dr. Williams is. But we'll get that pretty quick to you.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's going to be it for the agenda, other than if there's any new business.
Calling for any new business from commissioners. Anything else to address? I'll ramble for a second while y'all are coming up with your thoughts. Of course, the next called meeting we would have, the first part of the year, will be at the fair managers meeting. Traditionally, that's when we've had that. But keep in mind that when we come down to the committee that we just seated, as far as any action that needs to be taken from the board, we'll actually have called meeting for those actions to occur. Patrick, I don't think I hear anything else out there waiting, so
Yes, sir.
Make sure that you didn't have anything else before we called adjourned.
I guess that's the most important item on the agenda.
Sometimes people want to wait and make the motion for adjournment. Do I hear that?
So moved.
There was the motion. Do I get a second on that?
I'll second that.
There we go. All right, that'll take care of that. So, hearing the motion and the second, and unless somebody just has something else, we'll call the meeting adjourned. And I do appreciate all of you hopping on with us at pretty short notice and again to all of our staff for the work that's been done, not only on the seating of the committee and pulling this together, but the High Path AI. Let's keep that in mind, and hopefully we'll come to some resolution pretty soon. Patrick, I appreciate the time and effort, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, commissioners.
Y'all have a blessed one today.